Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back for your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Hedera and Hbar. So with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night wherever you guys are out there in the world. The holidays are practically here now. So I do hope that everybody's having a great holiday time. Hope everybody's having some great time with their family and their friends. And with that in mind, let's dive on in. So listen, as we look at central bank digital currencies and we look at this huge move happening around our entire monetary system, I have been researching and looking into the big connections. Hedera is no one in the world of CBDCs for most people. But if you look beyond the typical noise that we see around the space, which is, all right, Quant's the big leader here, XRP is the big leader here, there's no real discussions of Hbar, but there has been a ton of connections that have been forged this year alone, hinting at the fact that Hedera is going to be a part of this massive revolution. And we've been talking about this since going all the way back to 2021. There's also been a few other players in the space that have been talking about Hedera being linked to CBDCs as well. I know Internet of Value Owl has been talking about this. XRP Darren, now Crypto Darren, he's been talking about this as well. Crypto Eddie, there's been a few players, right? But for the most part, everyone thinks that XRP, QNT, and all these other players are the only ones that are actually a part of the CBDC realm. But that is false. Hedera has a ton of connections, and I do believe that Hedera is going to be a major leader in this new realm of finance. Now let's talk about this. So 93% of monetary authorities around the world are now considering so-called central bank digital currencies, and more than 100 countries are looking at retail issuance of such instruments. Researchers at the institution said, citing figures from the BIS, aka the Bank for International Settlements, who is the central bank of central banks. Now, as we see this anti-dollar movement and de-dollarization happening around the world, all of that is nonsense in my opinion. I think that is just to accelerate the shift away from fiat currency to this more so digital currency status. And when I say that, what I mean by it is they need to have some sort of major problem arise where the solution becomes a central bank digital currency. That's what they have been hinting at for a little bit of time in my opinion. But beyond that, we are at a major point in time where now every single major central bank practically around the world is looking at CBDCs. And we also even know that the IMF director herself even said that now is the time to look forward, not going back. Meaning, guess what? We need to have digital currencies. We need to usher into the digital age of currencies. Now, we know that central bank digital currencies is not new, right? Like this has been going on for a very long time. And we have been addressing this chart on the channel for a little bit of time now as well, and how fast it has erupted in terms of the research happening, the proof of concepts happening, pilots, and even launched CBDCs. This is becoming a big deal, and it's something that is real. It's inevitable. We are going to see CBDCs. They are going to happen. By 2030, they project that there's going to be a large amount of money flowing through the world through CBDCs as well. Now, with that in mind, how does Hedera play a role? How do all these players in this space play a role? Well, it's very simple, right? The underlying architecture, the infrastructure layer for CBDCs needs to be extremely efficient. And this is where Hedera really kind of comes into play. Now, beyond this, also compliance, regulations, standardization, things like that. It's so crucial to know. We know that Hedera actually has a public policy section on their website. Our mission is to inform policy and regulation that impacts the industry. And there's a one-pager on this if you guys do want to read it. You can see the membership. Again, these are elite organizations, major players. We have their commitment over here. We have the public policy in the US, global public policy as well, and compliance. Hedera has been fully focused on compliance. They've been fully focused on regulations. They have been probably one of the biggest players around working with regulators in the space. I know that Ripple has been doing so. I know that Quant has been doing so. But Hedera has been extremely on par with the overall standard when it comes to working with regulators on regulations and even policy. Now, beyond this, I just wanted to note this, considering the fact that, yes, the players that will be involved are going to be the ones that have the utmost compliance and the ones that are working with regulators. Now, for those out there questioning, well, didn't Ripple get sued by the SEC? Yes, they did, but they also won against the SEC, which is crucial to mention considering the fact that I do believe that Ripple will still be a big piece of that pie, but I also think that there's going to be some other players a part of this journey as well. And Hedera, in my opinion, is just as big as Ripple at this point. Let's look into this as well. So going back to March, which I just recently actually talked about Brian Brooks because of the significance of his name, the Hbar Foundation released this full breakdown on the highlights of 2023. Well, here we have Brian Brooks, right? So Brian Brooks was a big player because he is actually joining Hedera and targeting the next generation of finance and payments, CBDCs, and even consumer engagement. Now, we've talked about Brian Brooks, right? He is the former acting US comptroller of the currency. He is a big player around the world of finance. He comes from a substantial background, which I've addressed already in a previous video. But him joining Hedera is a big deal, considering the fact that he comes from a very substantial background. He didn't need to join Hedera. He's seen the value of being incorporated in the DLT and blockchain space, and he has been for a little bit of time now. But beyond this, we also seen just recently a video get posted by the Hbar Foundation, and this is actually with the Hbar Bull. We do see major banks like RBA Info, which is the Reserve Bank of Australia, require an institutional grade network from the perspective of both tech and governance. That's why Not Centralized piloted its CBDC solution for Australia's central bank on Hedera. Check this video out.
The ability to do this and to program the money, to program this collateral with tokenization and in the stablecoin form that it is, that's the big unlock that we see is really interesting. And then you add that layer of CBDC underneath with proof of reserves from a central bank issued digital currency. It's quite a powerful solution.
And again, like this is all piloting on Hedera. Now, again, yes, this is a pilot, but it's also something very significant because it shows you the power that is, of course, Hedera. But beyond this, we also even see entering the realm of CBDCs, we had two exciting developments. First off, Not Centralized launched its pilot with RBA Info, Australia's central bank. This leveraged programmable payments, automated payments triggered by construction oracles, and more. But beyond that as well, right? Enter in IDEMIA. So going back to October, we seen a post by Hbar to the Moon, and he was actually quoting Rakesh over on X, and we do see massive Hedera's governing council members and CBDC payment partner IDEMIA Group are involved with the project Polaris developed by the BIS, which is again the central bank of central banks. Now, within this white paper, by the way, like IDEMIA Group has a ton of big players tied to it. Ripple is also another one. I believe Algorand's on there. Stellar might be on there as well. There's some pretty big players, but Hedera being one of them, again, proves where Hedera has to stand in this world of CBDCs and this new financial system brewing. There's just no chance Hedera is not used here, best technology for CBDC and any other payment applications. And here we have, of course, Project Polaris. We have all of the players tied to this. Again, these are some pretty big names here. Google, IBM, IDEMIA, and even FIS Global, which are all GC members of Hedera. Now, beyond this, here we have, following suit, IDEMIA Group then launched its white paper for the award-winning secure offline CBDC payments solution with Hedera. Now, again, like I said, this is why DLT will be tapped in. When we look at these secure offline CBDC payment solutions and CBDCs themselves, it needs selective architecture. This is the separating factor, right? How will CBDCs actually be efficient? Well, it's because of the underlying architecture, the foundation layer, if you will. I've talked about this even with Quant, with Overledger, right? Like the foundation layer is so damn crucial because it addresses all of the big problems with the traditional world of finance. If we just launch CBDCs on any blockchain, well, it's not going to just change anything. It's going to be innovative, sure, but it still needs something that is very efficient to transact on. Hedera is one of the best networks for this. But also, this is why CBDCs and central banks actually need DLT and the big players in the space right now that are disrupting the status quo. But IDEMIA is a big player. Definitely pay attention to them. They also just recently, on December 13th, announced that IDEMIA is proud to bring offline peer-to-peer CBDC payments to Japan with JCB plus SoftSpace. Phase 1 piloted in 2023, enabling merchants to easily accept CBDCs. Phase 2 allows customers to transfer CBDC funds from peer-to-peer using cards plus mobile phones, even without internet. Like I said, pay attention to what is happening here, because the CBDC revolution is already here. It's becoming a big deal. You must focus on the players that are tapped in. Hedera, Ripple with XRP, Stellar with XLM, Quant, even Algorand has some connections back. I mean, there's a lot of players here. These are the big connections that I've been focused on, right? The ones that are the infrastructure layer for this new world of finance. And also the select pieces like wallets, offline payments, things that are going to allow this revolution to actually occur. But also, over here, MTech. So ISO 20022, another big piece of the puzzle. This is standardization. Throughout Web3, there's often been a lot of discussion about ISO 20022. Carmel Cadet, the CEO of MTech, joined the HBAR Twitter space in February to explain the financial messaging standard and how Hedera can facilitate it. And here we have what it actually means for MTech and even for the entire space.
We spent a lot of time looking at ISO 20022. And the way to think about it is HCS is really a message bus. And ISO 20022 really establishes some standard of messaging types or messages that you really need to capture in a payment transaction to make it understandable from one system to another. And this is a standard that not every bank and not every financial institution has adopted yet. Many are still going through the process of adopting. And what we see in HCS is ability to actually comply to that. You can configure your messages and the message types that you capture via HCS to be compliant to ISO 20022. So I know this is a question that comes up a lot. And the reason I don't think that Hedera particularly needs to think through making HCS ISO 20022 compliant is because it is at the application layer that you really need to make sure what the message types that you're gathering are compliant to that standard. And that's our approach to it. I'll give you an example. When you think about payments, especially cross-border payments, something that's always been embedded in that process is the concept of clearing and settlement. You know, what we've seen over the past 10, 20 years when it comes to token transfers and tokenization is really the settlement part. No clearing per se. The clearing happens off-chain, and the clearing sometimes happens in a very embedded way at the wallet level where, you know, someone gives you their wallet number. You trust that it's their wallet, and you go in or either Coinbase or any other platform, you enter the wallet number and you send the money. That's pure settlement. There's no clearing component. What we're looking at actually now, if we want to comply and capture the clearing component of a payment, which we believe will continue to be needed, is embedding that HCS component to the HTS transfer, the token transfer itself, and having that message bus capture the right data and the right messages for it to be compliant from one financial institution to the other, or from the sender to the receiver. And depending on what you have on the other side, if it is a HTS to HTS transfer, it's a very seamless kind of messaging system, depending on what you put on your message bus and you attach to that settlement layer.
So there you guys have it. And again, this is how Hedera supports this financial messaging standard, which is now going to be the global standard by the end of 2025. But also beyond this, we also seen that Hedera with MTech is also disrupting the status quo around CBDCs. Just recently, we've seen Ghana's CBDC hackathon comes to a close. Big shout out to Tokenizer for this. This CBDC leveraged MTech's Beyond Cash CBDC toolkit. As MTech uses Hedera's API for distributed access to services, HBAR has a clear role here too. Been an all-around year for Hedera with CBDC's governance or government, ESG, and more. And we even see here that the Bank of Ghana concluded its first central bank digital currency CBDC hackathon. It involved 10 teams developing ECD solutions deployed on Hedera's public DLT using MTech's Beyond Cash digital currency solution. And then also the 10 finalists launched apps covering architecture, agriculture, government payments, business payments, taxation, securities, crowdfunding, interoperability, and even credit scoring. And again, this is a very significant one considering the fact that digitalization is now in full effect. Every single industry, every single sector is being disrupted by it. But payments and finance, it's going to take some time. But this is the largest revolution in terms of finance and also our global monetary system that we have ever seen. Blockchain, DLT, you name it, it is at the forefront of a generational change to our entire system. And when I say generational, I mean for multiple generations. We're talking 100 years plus. This technology will be so dominant and it will be so disruptive. And it's going to be a piece of every single layer of our entire society. We're talking about finance. We're talking about real estate. We're talking about payments in the grocery store. Anything that you can think of is going to be disruptive. It's going to take some time, but it's already happening. And also, last but not least, the first trial will explore the use of a wholesale CBDC for interbank settlement involving tokenized deposits. The second will focus on employing the wholesale CBDC for security settlement using DLT platforms. The Bank of Korea teams up with LG CNS for wholesale CBDC trials. First off, let's talk about this, right? LG CNS. First off, LG is a GC member of Hedera. They leverage Hedera. As a digital transformation specialist and digital growth partner, we devote our DX skills to succeed with our customers and clients. And they are optimizing this for clients. This is in the cloud, AI, big data, smart factory, smart logistics, smart city, blockchain, and other DX technologies. Everything is going to be leveraged here. This is absolutely wild to see because, again, this proves to you that every single layer of society will be disrupted by this type of technology. We're talking about AI and big data, cloud, Web3, DX solutions, smart city, DX and finance, the digital customer experience, DX and public, security, smart logistics, smart factory. I mean, you name it. This is what you need to be focusing on. The players that are tapped in and tied to some of these larger companies like LG, for an example, that are also becoming a leader in the digital transformation space. But Shinhan Bank, SCB Tech X, successfully pilot stablecoin remittances on the Hedera network. Remember who Shinhan Bank actually is. They are a leading commercial bank in South Korea. And when we look at how much money they actually have in their bank, it's very large. And they are an absolute leader. 27 million customers, individual consumers, SMEs, and large corporations, with 887 branches, including 166 global branches in 20 countries. The company also serves its 15.9 million mobile users with its award-winning app, Soul. Now, mind you, right? We just seen this announcement with the Bank of Korea and LG on wholesale CBDC trials. I wonder what DLT is being tapped in here. Could it be Hedera? 100%. Could it not? Yeah, 100%. We don't know. All we can look at is the connections and the links back. But there has been so much substance within this video regarding how Hedera is at the forefront of the CBDC revolution. They are a leader in finance. They're a leader in almost every single aspect that is being digitalized at this point. And I really do think that everyone needs to pay attention to Hedera because they are extremely compliant. They have been working with regulators. They have been at the forefront of many industries in terms of, even agriculture, finance, social media. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I could talk about all of these sectors and industries that Hedera has been disrupting since day one. They continue to expand every single damn day. So as we look at this revolution and as we look at what's happening right now, you need to be sure and you need to understand how big of a change this will be. And you also need to look at the connections and the links back to some of these big leaders. And like I said, Hedera is at the forefront of the largest revolution happening in the history of technology. So pay attention to Hedera, pay attention to the connections. And with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on if you guys want more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Peace out.